Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of Vampire the Masquerade Beyond Armageddon. Before we begin, I'd like to make a few announcements. First, we are proud to announce that Sabbat the Schism is officially out now. Not only does it delve into the history and lore of the sect, it opens up multiple role-playing options for fans of the game, including new playable clans, elder level powers, and much more. You can find your own copy of Sabbat the Schism in the link below. Second, I'd like to thank RS Experiments, our local musical talent, for graciously providing the custom music you've been enjoying so far, including our awesome main theme song called Haven Dweller. If you enjoy any of the music used during the stream and you'd like to hear more, you can find a full library of Mark's work by clicking the link below to RS Experiments' SoundCloud page. Lastly, if you enjoyed tonight's session and you'd like to see more, be sure to follow both our channels. You can catch us live most Sundays at 7 p.m. CET by tuning in to youtube.com/@EriseGames or at twitch.tv/EriseGames. Alternatively, you can enjoy all our recorded sessions on YouTube. Links below. Remember to like, subscribe, and be sure to leave us feedback and suggestions in the comments below. We hope you enjoy the session. And without further ado, let us delve into the world of darkness in tonight's episode of Vampire the Masquerade Beyond Armageddon. Welcome back. Jasper, for the past 12 hours, you have spent your time nailed in a small coffin, barely big enough for you to wiggle in. You have felt the coffin being loaded onto a plane and transferred from that plane to another plane upon landing. And this process has gone on for long enough that you went into torpor. As you regain your senses, you feel the coffin shake from side to side. You feel the vibrations on the wood. Vibrations similar to wheels on a gravel road. The muffled sounds of trotting coming from outside. At some point, it stops, and after a few moments, you feel the coffin being pushed out. and it lands on the ground. It almost hits your head as it lands. And soon after, you hear trotting once more, only this time it slowly fades to the distance.
Do I hear anything else?
Nothing whatsoever.
Well, then I would try to open the coffin, perhaps, if it's possible.
Okay. You push on the lid, and at first it seems rather stiff. After looking around, or at least feeling around, you find a small lever put in place for you to open it from the inside. And as you tug on it, you hear the creaking wood of the box as it pries open. Peering outside, you see parts of the night sky obscured by the occasional tree branches that seem to hang over you.
Well, Jasper would slowly get out of the coffin, probably doing some slight stretches from being so clustered in a small box.
Mm-hmm.
And he will take a note of his surroundings, seeing if there's anything to discern where he is exactly.
So after prying the lid open, you sit up and stretch while taking in your surroundings. The coffin was dropped on a dirt, or rather, at this point, a mud road. Um, at some point, you can tell the road was made of placed stones, but time and the elements have mostly taken the road back. As you push yourself up to get on your feet, you look into the surroundings of this road. You see that most of it is thick forests. And upon looking towards a hill in the direction of where you assume you were going, you see essentially the road twisting into the woods. And as you look slowly up, you see a hill. And at the top of the hill seems to be a small mansion made of stone.
Looks like I'm going to this mansion, perhaps. Was I given like any directions, or did anyone specify where I needed to go? Did
Nope.
Cecil, or better yet, Olivia, say anything?
Nope. You were just put in this box and sent on your way.
I see. I well, knowing that probably this is most likely the place, perhaps he would go. So he would be careful not to be seen by anyone along the way, just in case it isn't.
Mm-hmm. Um, as you step outside of the coffin, the boots you brought splash onto the muddy road, and you begin making your way towards the mansion. Um, you walk for approximately 5, maybe 10 minutes. And then in the distance, you see a carriage, a horse-drawn carriage, coming your way.
Is there anything that I could be in danger? Anyone around?
Well,
Perhaps.
presumably just the person riding the carriage.
I guess I would wait then to see who's exactly in the carriage.
Mm-hmm. As the carriage approaches, the man riding atop it stops. Um, he pulls his scarf down, and you see his skin is pale. He has bags under his eyes. He seems almost sickly. He turns to
Mm-hmm.
you and speaks, his mouth basically populated only by rotten or decaying teeth. Are you him?
Well, thinking that he probably means Jasper, then he would say yes, I believe.
Get in.
Uh, Jasper would slowly make his way into the carriage, bringing whatever stuff he brought with him
Mm-hmm.
to the carriage.
The carriage door closes behind you, and after turning on the road, it begins heading towards the mansion. As the road begins to increase uh, in the incline, um, you feel gravity pull you back slightly as you realize you're now approaching the mansion. Do you say anything to the man?
Mm, no, not really. If anything, I need to know will probably be most likely either mentioned in the beginning once I get there by well, the elder that is there.
Mm-hmm. The carriage rides up the road, and at some point, you see from the small windows on the side that you pass a number of stone walls. After which, the carriage begins to slow and eventually stops. You hear the splashing on the mud as the man hops out of the carriage, and then silence.
Okay. Has the carriage stopped in front of the door
It
or
stopped
somewhere
near
else?
the mansion, yes.
Near the mansion, but not at the mansion. Okay.
Uh, At the mansion, basically. It's not like you get out a few steps and you're at the door, but you get out and, you know, a minute of walking
Mm-hmm.
in, you're there.
Okay. Okay. Well, Jasper will slowly and carefully make his way into the mansion. He would, of course, knock on the door first before even trying to step inside.
Mm-hmm. As you exit the carriage, you see the man that was riding, that was basically driving the carriage. He stands next to it with sort of a glassy look to his eyes, and he simply stares forward, almost like he's with a hunch, his hands sort of frozen in front of him, with his head slightly tilted to the side and jaw slightly open.
What does the inside look like of the place?
Okay, so you go straight in. You
No. I
approach.
want to look before walking inside,
Well,
just in case.
you haven't even gone to the door, but assuming you ignore this guy and go straight to the door to knock,
Mhm.
you approach the door and you take the knocker on the door. It seems to be a lion head holding essentially a golden ring with a weight at the bottom of it. Um, you take the weight, lift it, and just let gravity do its work. The echo of the knock can be heard inside. And the door simply clicks open. And the squeaking of the wood as the door opens about 45 degrees echoes through the inside. Peeking at the interior, you see fine marble floor that leads straight down this small corridor past an entrance with a seating area and a pair of double doors that are currently open, leading to a large seeming it seems to be a dining area with a fireplace at the end. The fireplace seems to be lit.
Well, I will slowly make my way to the fireplace, perhaps. Not getting too close to the point where it would, you know, make me scared to death to run away.
Mm-hmm.
But close enough that whoever is there, I can probably see it. I also maybe I would like to keep my Auspex one um on for the time being, just in case.
Okay, what sense?
Uh, uh, sound.
Okay,
Try to
so
hear out.
hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So as you step forward, you heighten your sense of hearing. The echoes of your footsteps around the building become loud and extremely perceptible, in contrast with the absolute quiet that surrounds the building. As the sounds heighten around you, you eventually manage to detect the faint sound of wind from outside, um, almost whistling at the windows. You approach the dining area, and I need you to roll perception and investigation.
Does Auspex apply?
Hmm. Are you activating it for your vision?
Well, if I try to just figure out something while seeing, yes.
Sure. I'll allow it for now.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Um, as you go past the dining table, you notice something peculiar. All the items are very, very well kept. The table's clean, as if it's been used daily. The fire's lit. There's enough chopped firewood nearby to sustain it for at least the night. And if there's enough here, you would assume there's wood storage somewhere around the mansion. But the most peculiar thing is that no matter where you look, there's always this faint spotted film covering everything. A slight layer of sort of glistening red fungus that seems to grow everywhere.
Ah,
Familiar one, too.
okay. Yeah. Probably know exactly what it is. Well, there's no sign of anyone around, correct?
Not that you can see right now.
Right. I try to look on the other side through the shadow lens to see if there's anything happening.
You peek through the veil, peering into the Shadowlands. And usually you'd expect to see maybe a husk or something hanging around. There would be some aspect of activity within the Shadowlands. And this being a mansion, you'd expect it to be of a certain size, given that there are events that happen here, there are memories and emotions that happen here. Not only is the mansion massive, but it is utterly devoid of any activity within the Shadowlands.
Not eerie at all. Oh. Well, since there's nothing really, and no one has shown up, guess Jasper will probably just wait out since he doesn't know where he can or cannot go.
Mm-hmm.
If there is anywhere he is supposed to go.
At some
There's
point,
just
you hear echoes of footsteps coming from a hallway right up um, one of the stairways that accompanies the side of the room. And soon after, you see what looks like another man in a similar state to the previous one. His hair is. This man seems much older. His hair is very white. His skin is very wrinkled and dry. But he seems to be afflicted by whatever the other man was. Um, he still has the eye bags. His skin is very pale. And he seems to not have a very good quality of teeth as he speaks. As he comes down the stairs, he seems to bring a small box. He approaches the table, almost not acknowledging you, and puts the small wooden box on the table. Takes a key on a string wrapped around his wrist, unlocks it, and slowly opens the box. And at this point, he turns to you and says, "The Master welcomes you to the mansion. As a show of goodwill, he's offered sustenance. You are welcome to stay in our guest room. And of course, as tradition demands, a gift is provided to you. The Master will provide education and time from his eternal existence to enlighten you. And a token to show his dedication to the eldest. The man reaches into the box and, with a lot of care, seems to lift both of his hands, holding what looks like a very well decorated silver knife. He then offers it to you.
I take the knife while saying, I thank the master for such a gift, and I hope that I do not intrude too much on his studies while he teaches me.
The man doesn't seem to be very reactive to what you say, but seems to listen.
I could you perhaps show me where the guest room is?
Right this way, sir. And he begins to turn and stumble his way up the stairs. Do you follow?
I do follow.
Mm-hmm. As you go up the stairs, you notice that the man uses the railing next to the stairs to keep his balance. And one thing you notice is that every time his hand touches the railing, it's almost like the moss almost clings onto his hand, keeping it in place. And then when he lifts his hand, the moss lets it go. Seems to be reacting to his every movement.
I take note of that. Probably the whole mansion is being monitored by this moss.
Mm-hmm. You are led up the stairs onto the second floor, where the man directs you down a long corridor, and eventually through a series of rooms. You pass a study attached to a small library, then you pass a game room, all of these extremely well decorated. And eventually, you reach a large room with essentially a king-sized, very, very comfortable but old-looking bed. And essentially housing for meeting all the needs of one of the undead persuasion. All the windows have incredibly thick curtains that, as you enter the room, while they are drawn, the servant seems to approach them, and with some amount of effort, as he seems to be quite feeble, he pulls the curtains shut. This is the guest room the master will provide. As tradition demands, you have 3 nights to use this bedroom as you wish. You may come and go as you wish. The master has offered you the courtesy of extending this usual deadline for the duration of your education.
I thank the master. I would like to know when I'll be able to see him so I can be ready and punctual.
The man seems to listen to you, and he seems to almost look into the infinite as his gaze sort of drops, and he stumbles slowly out of the room.
Oh. I look at him. Is he looking at me like waiting for me to follow or anything, or just does
No, he
he
just
just leave?
leaves.
Very well. I guess I'll do some slight unpacking, perhaps, maybe, and wait for anything new to
Mm-hmm.
happen if I'm called by the master and whatnot.
As you unpack, what have you brought to this mansion?
Uh, what I have brought is some clothing. I also brought my notebook where I take notes of experiments and whatnot. And as a gift for the master, the Tzimisce, I would have brought in all of the all of the experimentation and results I have been doing with humans and increasing their brain
Hmm. Okay.
as a gift.
Okay. The unpacking process is slow, and well, it takes a bit. You eventually manage to take everything out and make yourself at home as much as possible. As you feel you are done, you look around and you hear a tapping noise echoing from beyond the room. Seems to be down the series of rooms and back from the corridor.
Well, I would go towards the door and open to see who's coming.
You open the door and you see another one of the servants stumbling forward. And again, he seems to be in this sickly condition you've seen before. The man seems to spot you at some point, and he begins to make his way towards you and stops about 2-3 meters away from you. With a sort of a jolt in his motion, he's his back sort of like bends in a bit of an unnatural way with a few cracking sounds. And eventually the man straightens with a bit of a change in his expression. He opens his eyes, and you see vivid red moss covering most of the whites of his eyes, and almost like veins consuming the inside of the man's body. Um, Slight bits of blood drop from his nose and lips, and you notice his skin, previously very pale, now has flared up with this almost bright red glow in his veins. The man looks to you and says, Jasper, I presume?
Yes, and Jasper would take a polite now bow towards the owner of this mansion, hopefully.
Welcome to my domain. You are here to be educated in the ways of metamorphosis. The true ways of metamorphosis, undiluted by time or personal opinion. The man looks to you, and after examining you, with a few looks up and down, he extends his hand, once again with odd crackling noises from his joints every time he moves. He extends his hand sort of in a beckoning motion.
And I would beckon back. I greet you, Lord of this mansion, and I thank you for sparing your precious time to be able to teach me the ways. I
I
have
won't
also
teach you the ways. I'll instruct you on how you should think, how you should act. I'll show you truth, not knowledge.
Jasper looks a little bit confused. Seems somewhat paradoxical what he just said, but he just nods in understanding. I have also brought a gift, and he would bring out his notes that he has separated and rewritten in a neat way so it doesn't seem like he was doing it in the middle of experimentation, and he will give to this elder vampire.
The old man, this feeble servant possessed by what you assume is a Tzimisce elder, takes the journal and says, I'm glad to see our traditions have yet to fade from memory. Those of our clan that have forgotten lose a lot. He then opens the journal and, flipping through it, says, what is this?
These are some results of experimentation. Most of our clan doesn't bother to mess around with the brain much, but I have been doing so and ended up reaching some interesting results.
And so you give me knowledge freely.
As a gift. Yes, it seemed like one to be bestowed to you.
The man slowly closes the book and places it on a table nearby. Then looks to you, and almost with a flash that you didn't expect to be possible, um, this feeble servant appears right in front of you and gives you a firm slap across the face, um, with enough force to rupture the skin on your cheek. And then continues. I'll keep the punishment brief and simple, as you are simply respecting the traditions. Knowledge, however, shouldn't be freely shared or accepted. You'll take this back, and you'll continue your research. If you ever think of sharing knowledge with me or anyone else this freely, I don't think you have a lot of hope as a metamorphosist.
Jasper would reflexively heal, trying to take in what he just said while also trying not to be spiteful or angry about it. And he will say, I understand. Forgive my ignorance.
Your manners do you credit, but we will need to reshape your priorities. The night seems to be coming to an end. Your instruction will begin tomorrow. Until then, be sure to feast on the refreshments provided. They will allow us to prepare you adequately for the coming nights.
And Jasper would just nod and bow once again.
And as you bow, the man gives a slight nod. And as soon as the nod is over, he contorts and falls to the ground, wheezing in agony as the red glow seems to fade from his veins. And he returns to um, this pale skin color of his. His eyes return to normal, and with a gasp, he seems to essentially black out for a moment. And as you sort of peek at him, he eventually opens his eyes, waking up in a bit of a daze, stumbles onto his feet, and begins to limp back towards the hallway.
Interesting. Jasper would go inside of his room, close the door, and take a drink before he
This time,
goes to sleep.
as you re-enter the room, on the table right in front of the bed, it wasn't there before. Now there's essentially a bottle of wine in this silver, extremely well decorated bottle holder. And the bottle seems to have a slight drip to it, which you can smell from a mile away. It's not just blood, it's vitae.
Oh, very interesting. I guess there is no other way from feeding, right? Most likely,
Oh,
other than whatever Vitae that is.
you can find sustenance within the mansion if you wish. Yes. This is what was provided for tonight. It is up to you if you take it.
Well, it's just one night, so might as well just drink it once.
So you uncork the bottle, and you take one of the glasses that's next to the stand and serve yourself a glass. And as the vitae drips from the bottle and onto this glass, it's almost like the vitae seems to cling to the walls of the glass as if it's trying to climb out for a moment before settling, behaving much like regular blood afterwards.
Jasper kind of shudders a little bit, remembering him drinking Cecil's blood for the first time, where it also had apparently something in it until it looked like blood again. I I do have a question. Would I be able to try to see if there's anything strangely behaving with this blood?
Well, apart from the obvious, you can certainly try to look for specific things. Are you looking for odd physical behavior or odd supernatural behavior? Like magic and
Odd
stuff.
supernatural. Odd supernatural behavior.
Okay. In that case, you would either need to taste it or touch it. I'll allow you to choose which one.
I would touch it.
Okay. Roll a quick perception alertness, please.
Does aspects count into it?
Yes.
So, what difficulty would be?
Yeah, that's enough successes. I'm not gonna tell you the difficulty of you little shit. You very carefully sort of dab the top of the liquid with your fingers. And the weirdest thing on is that on your first pass, it doesn't cling to your finger at all. It's almost like you just rubbed your finger on a dry material. Confused and a bit curious, you give it another small dab, and this time a bit of it clings onto your finger, behaving much like a normal liquid. As you observe it, the droplet seems to, instead of dripping from your finger, seems to begin to climb up your finger.
Ah, so it seems to be moving towards my finger. I guess I would probably wipe it to see what would happen if I wiped my finger.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Um, you take one of the folded bits of cloth you can find in one of the drawers, probably. You take it, and with a very soft and swift motion, you begin to wipe your finger, and it cleans pretty normally, like normal blood.
ah, well, I'm still gonna risk it because I don't want to offend the
That a bit.
master of the men. So I will drink it, unfortunately, instead
Um,
of feeding off his servant.
mhm. You take the glass. Um, do you just gulp it down, or do you try to savor it?
I try to savor it.
Okay. So much like someone drinking wine, you let it breathe for a moment. You smell it. The smell of vitae is incredibly powerful, um, and incredibly enticing. You bring the glass up to your lips. You allow the liquid to pour into your mouth. You take a sip of it. And as you do, you take a total of one sip. How many blood points are you missing?
Uh, I am missing 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think that'll get the message across. So you drink one sip, yes? With one sip of the glass, you can fill your entire track.
Whoa, that is that is something. Can Jasper sense with his vicissitudes if this is like almost compacted blood or
Hmm.
is it just regular? vampire
Roll,
blood.
roll int and medicine for this. We'll use medicine because that's what you usually roll with vicissitude.
Mm-hmm.
We'll account for medicine as the vicissitude knowledge, essentially. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what you know about vicissitude and knowing enough about the human body to know this. Well, the blood, for one, behaves very weirdly. It's clearly not normal blood. You've noticed slight signs of almost sentience to it. That said, if it's this filling to you, and if it tastes this good, and if it's this sustaining, you'd wager this is either some very, very compressed blood fungus type of creature, or really, really, really powerful blood from a very, very old Logen elder.
I see. I probably know which one of the two is the answer. Very well. I guess with that, Jasper would lie down for the night before he falls to the ground asleep.
Okay. You lay on the bed, making yourself as comfortable as you can, and as you close your eyes and allow the torpor to set in, for a moment, you expect the usual pattern of things. You fall into torpor, and without really noticing the passage of time, you immediately wake up. This time, the next night, and you continue about your night without really sensing the passage of time. That said, as you allow torpor to take you, you drift off, and for the first time since your embrace, you swear that you fall asleep instead of going into torpor. Your body sort of goes limp, your mind drifts, and you dream. You dream of nightlife in different cities. You dream of different languages. You dream of people, places that you've never seen. Technology far too advanced for you to recognize it. For a brisk moment in your dream, you see this almost church-like construction of flesh in a damp, abandoned house. You see a flash of Jack's face. You see a number of other places in the city, and then you open your eyes. You look at your watch. Seems to be the next night. And you felt every hour of it.
Okay. I get up immediately and await further instructions.
Mm-hmm. As you stand up, you notice that the bottle at the end of the bed on the table is now empty. You take a few steps out of the bed, and making your way out of the bedroom, you see another one of the servants, once again with this glowing fluid coursing through its veins. Hopefully you had a well-rested day. We have a lot of
I had
work to do.
I had something very different from what I usually happens.
Indeed. Come, our first lesson shall begin. Tell me,
He would.
Master Jasper, and he says this as he walks through the mansion. Tell me of things you hold dear in life.
Things I hold dear. I would say my knowledge, my experiments, the results of my work. Even the failures have some sort of increment to gaining knowledge.
Indeed.
Other than that, not much else as of now. Everything I had once has been gone for quite a while.
Such a boon usually is reserved for the elders of our kind. You have been granted the gift of experiencing it while so young.
Jasper looks a little bit confused by what he means with boon, but he tries to follow along what he means by thinking he means that I only care about knowledge now and nothing else.
Uh, the servant seems to close his eyes for a moment, and as he twitches his head to the side, you find sort of this involuntary impulse on your neck, and you do the same motion. And the servant opens his eyes and continues to walk. To clarify, I meant your detachment from your previous world. Waking up to see something new, exciting, the advancements of humanity, ripe for experimentation.
Jasper nods, now understanding, but he is now once again confused by how he just made him slightly move his neck just like the servant.
Here we are. Our first lesson. Um, the man leads you down the corridor and enters a side door you had previously not entered. The room you end up in is this almost a study like the previous one you saw, only this one is a bit more of an open plan. And it seems to have these railings to the side separating this center area from a sort of viewing area where you'd imagine a lot of people could witness something in the center. Behind the viewing area are these large stacks of, or large cases of books. And at the center of this viewing area, right, where all the attention is drawn in the room, the open area at the center, you have a slab of stone and a smaller table to the side of it. Very clearly, an operation room. The peasant, the servant, seems to walk up to the table and looks to you and says, One of us is going to get on that table. We are then going through a procedure. And you will change yourself into something new. Or you will change the servant into something new. I will give you the choice. I will examine what you do with that choice.
Mm. Jasper ponders for a moment what he could possibly do. He hasn't done much in the works of changing. He stops himself and looks towards the servant and asks, "Are any of them, a shovelhead, perhaps?"
None. It would not be a difficult change. I believe by shovelhead you mean the Sabbat embraces.
Yes, there's been something I have been wanting to test. Only tested it on humans, but wanted
One
to see what would
moment.
happen.
The servant closes his eyes and seems to focus. And as the glow in his veins begins to flare up, the cracking of his neck as he jolts in place, contorting once more, and clasping at his chest as he falls to his knees, indicates that he is clearly suffering. He's going through extreme bouts of pain. And after a moment, he goes limp and begins to stand up. The glowing on his veins still present, the red moss covering the whites of his eyes still very visible. The servant raises his head, his mouth slightly agape, now boasting two fangs. Will this suffice?
This would suffice indeed.
Be sure to dispose of him by the end.
But by what means do you wish me to dispose him?
I will leave that up to you. You're free to experiment on him for the duration of the 3 days. You are only not allowed to diablerize this one.
Understood?
Shall I? And the man looks to the table.
Of course, please.
Mm-hmm. He climbs on the table, and after laying on it, he grips the sides of the table, and the moss, the slight film of moss growing on it, seems to cover the man's hands and almost fuse with it. And then the glowing of his veins begins to fade. His eyes return to
Before,
normal, and the
before
man.
he turns
Oh, yeah.
before he turns completely normal, Jasper would like to ask, uh, about materials. How would I go, or am I only allowed to use the materials on the table as of now?
Procure what you must.
Jasper would not.
And the man rests his head back, and again, the light fades. His eyes return to normal. And as the servant attempts to sort of contort and regain his independence, the limbs seem to be firmly stuck to the table, and he jerks very little before awakening, sort of in a panic, his eyes darting around the place, and the man questioning his surroundings in a language you don't recognize.
Okay, first things first. Make sure to silence him. I would. Jasper would make sure to silence him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need. He's grateful that he's not moving, but he doesn't need a noisy subject.
Mm-hmm. And now, without any rules needed, tell me what happens to this subject.
First things first, Jasper would procure some materials from outside of the castle, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
He would bring them back and use the materials from other subjects to add more muscle density and make the bones more firm. He would also do some experimentation with uh, increasing the subject's brain size and cerebellum. He would also like to add almost like a tail of sorts, and he would add a brain like how an arm of an octopus would be.
Mm.
Each arm of an octopus has a smaller brain, which allows it to process information before sending it to the main brain.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he would also remove the insides of the men that are unnecessary, and he would add some extra limbs while making it so, for example, he would add 2 extra arms on him and make it and adjust it in a way where he can hide the arms by just hugging himself with
Mm.
thanks to the fact that there are no organs, it would make it so it looks like his regular torso
Mm-hmm.
inside. And I think what else? What else? He would also perhaps change the legs a little bit, making it slightly feline to help better for running and perhaps climbing as well.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Hmm, Let me ponder for a second. I'll be doing all of this without testing, letting him get up and whatnot, correct?
Yeah,
Fortunately.
basically.
Hmm, I guess I would enclose more of his rib cage so the heart is more protected, perhaps, to see how it would look.
Okay.
See if it would look slightly natural, so even with clothing, no one would see anything different.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And hmm, I guess with 3 days and this much work with changing him, I think that would be about as much time I could have with him.
Okay. How much time do you think you'd dedicate to this? Just one night, or would you go for the second night and visit on this?
I would go the first and second night.
Okay. As you finish your product, the monstrosity on the table now sort of resigned to its fate, no longer really reacts to the pain anymore. It seems to sort of accept whatever's happening with a numb, broken mind. And as you look at it, at the creature, and feel that it is done for the time being, the veins of the creature begin to glow, and the eyes once more get mossed up. And with a crack of its spine, it jolts up and opens its eyes calmly. An interesting set of modifications you performed.
I thank for the credits for my changes that I did to him. But it was only with your help in keeping him steady that I was able to do such
Respect is
fine
all
job
well and good,
fits.
Mr. Jasper, but this is not the time. My feelings, your feelings, none of it really matters. The result. This matters. And you performed quite well. However, we've yet to address one small issue. And the man looks to you, stands up, and looks you up and down. Apologies. The man looks you up and down, and with a stern but mostly neutral expression, he says, "Master Jasper, why do you still look the same?"
Well, I wanted to see my results before any changes were done to me. To make sure that no damage to myself would happen in case I did something it couldn't be reversed.
Damage that could not be reversed, I understand avoiding, but one with the powers of vicissitude in my estate would not need to fear such things. And certainly out there, you master discipline well enough, you won't need to fear such consequences, nor should you. You deprive yourself of useful knowledge. See, the truth, Master Jasper, is that you or I, none of this matters. The shape you have taken, it is pointless, flawed, and it will always be, until you ascend to something better. And that something better, well, it may change constantly. Those of our blood sometimes are blessed with what many sects would simply call a curse. A fluidity to our flesh. We wake up every night with a new face, a new personality, a new voice, sometimes a new gender. The modifications can be extreme or subtle, but faces are a passing thing. Those of such a blessing are enlightened in ways you or I cannot be. You should chase that enlightenment. I bring you truth, not knowledge. You will give yourself knowledge. Do you understand?
I do.
Good.
Jasper nods, completely understanding. He seems to ponder a little bit if him testing for security reasons has also slowed down his progress. And he understands now that perhaps With his ability, he should just test and see the results himself instead of giving others the knowledge that he is trying to find himself.
Once again, the monstrosity closes its eyes, and with a slight twist of the neck, you mirror that motion. Good. You've reached a new level of knowledge, a new level of being. But your progress has just started. Let's see how deeply your mind can be molded into a perfect being. And he reaches forward, and with a simple patting on your neck, you feel your head slowly separate from your body and fall to the ground. As you begin to fear final death, your eyes begin to see only red as the body and head you have left behind slowly change into a vivid red moss and join with the elder. And that is where we will call this episode. We will join our pack next week upon Jasper's return and enlightenment.
Are we not doing Olivia?
Not this episode. It's a bit late. Yeah. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.